All right. I think I'm now live. I'm actually coming on just a little bit early, 3 minutes early, testing out the Periscope platform a little bit, making sure that you can see me and I can see you and all of that. So I am on a little bit early, and I'll wait till the top of the hour to get formally started. But for those of you who are coming on now, I'm calling in from the corporate offices of Toro Consulting and Dan Weedin, my office here, and so welcome. We'll get started here in just a few minutes live, and I've got again a couple minutes here early. Thank you for those of you who are watching either live or watching later on. Logistically, just so you know, this will be available for 24 hours after we're done talking. And I think I figured out how to save it, so I will also be posting it on my Twitter and on other social media sites. For those of you who are only following me on Periscope and maybe no place else, you can find me on Twitter at at Dan Weedin. You can find me on my Facebook page if you search Dan Weedin. You can also find me on LinkedIn and on Google+. I seem to be ubiquitous on social media. I have a blog at Weedin360.com. So that's it. Those are some of the places. And here I am on Periscope trying out my first live broadcast on Groundhog Day, which will, to some extent, be the topic of what we're going to talk about briefly today. So I'll wait one more minute. We're at a minute to the top of the hour, and I'll give everybody a little bit of time to get in, and then we'll get started. Anyway, I think this is working. I think it's working well. Maybe I see some people are out there. I know there's ways for me to see stuff that is happening, hearts and comments and all of that. So if you have comments, feel free to send them along, and I'll try to see them as I'm talking. It's a great opportunity. If you have a question on something I said, feel free to send that along, and we'll be started here in just a minute. I want to make sure we give everybody a chance to log on. Oh boy, there's a heart. That's good. I see a couple people on. Great. Welcome as you're coming on to this to this live broadcast here. We are going to get started. You know what? We're right at the top of the hour. It just turned to 10 o'clock Pacific. Let's go ahead and not delay any further. For those of you just coming on, welcome. I'm Dan Weedin. I'm going to be your host for this broadcast. It's called Weedin Unleashed. You're going to get to see this more and more as I get more familiar with Periscope. We'll do these kind of quick hitter broadcasts. Today is a special Groundhog Day edition. I've always been fascinated by Groundhog Day. Poxitani Phil, I think I said his name right, Poxitani Phil came out this morning. I don't know if you saw it, but we are set to have an early spring, which is good news for us here in the greater Seattle area. We've had a lot of rain and cold, so I'm looking forward to spring. You should be looking forward to spring in your career and in your life too, and the best way to do that is to get out from underneath your shadow. That's right. Poxitani Phil either sees a shadow or doesn't see a shadow. I don't remember which one says we're going to have an early or late spring. I don't know what he did today, but he did say it's going to be an early spring. So let's make sure it's an early spring for you too. Wrote a few things down. I'll be checking my notes here and talking about what it is that keeps you from maximizing your talent by keeping you forced underneath your own shadow. So let's talk about it here. Let's start with, how do you even know you're stuck in your shadow? Number one, you're fearful of making bad decisions. So you find yourself overthinking and then either not making the decision, not taking a risk, or you've waited so long that the opportunity has passed. Many of the people that I work with have at one time or another been guilty of overthinking things. When I talk about the invisible fence and being unleashed, my dog Captain Jack, who happens not to be, he's in another room today, so I'm not going to bother him. But if he gets unleashed, if he gets loose, if there's an open door, he uses his nose, his sense of smell to gauge. But he doesn't take very long. He doesn't do a cost-benefit analysis on whether he's going to run out the door. He doesn't overthink. We need to be more like canines. While it's prudent to use some sensory perception of our own to make those decisions, and maybe doing a very quick cost-benefit analysis, pros and cons, we shouldn't take too long. Stop overthinking. We'll talk about solutions in a minute, but stop overthinking. That's probably one of the top 2 or 3 most common issues that I deal with my clients. Number 2, you're hanging out with the same colleagues, the same clients, the same prospects, the same customers, the same friends, the same people all the time. Groundhog Day, if you remember the great Bill Murray movie by that name, Groundhog Day is where he gets stuck in the same day, day after day. We can get stuck hanging out with the same people day after day, month after month, year after year. Now, I'm not suggesting that you dump your friends. Maybe some of them you might need to. But what about finding new friends? We'll talk about that in solutions again. I'm jumping the gun. But that's how you know you're stuck in your shadow. If you're still hanging out with all the same people you've been hanging out for the last decade. Number 3, how do you know you're stuck in your shadow? You're afraid to ask for help because you don't want someone to think that you don't know what you're doing. I once had a client who I was mentoring, and I hadn't heard from her in a while. And the deal is, in mentoring, is that she's supposed to reach out to me, and I respond to her. I hadn't heard from her in a while, so I called and I said, "Hey, I haven't heard from you. What's going on?" And she said she'd been meaning to call me, but she didn't want to ask me a question where she thought I might think she was dumb. I said, "That's dumb. You hired me to help you. You hired me to help you through these things. You have to feel confident enough to call me." So when you're worried about what other people might think about you, and so you don't ask for help, you don't ask for things to grow, for professionally grow, you run into problems. These are your 3 things how you know you're stuck in your shadow. Number 1, you're fearful of making bad decisions, so you overthink. Number 2, you're hanging out with all the same people for years and years and decades, and you're not adding anybody new. And then number 3, you're afraid to ask for help. You're afraid to ask for help because you're afraid of what others might think. And so the problem with all of those is you get in this pattern, Groundhog Day, that your days turn into the same. Your weeks, your months, your years, they turn into the same. Let's get you out of that and talk about solutions. Number 1, ask yourself what you're doing, if what you're doing is what you love. Is it your passion still? You probably got into it because it was a passion, but has it become routine? Are you stuck in a success trap? Are you doing it because you think you have to? Are you doing activities and having behaviors because you think you have to? Or are you doing it because you think someone else is gaining value? Are you gaining value? If you no longer do what you love, if you don't have a passion for it, then you need to change something. Now, it could mean changing your position, but it could just change logistically and methodology-wise what you're doing. Maybe it's time to delegate some things to other people so you can spend more time doing what you love. What happens when you get stuck in the success trap, which my professional mentor Alan Weiss taught me about, what happens when you get stuck in the success trap is when you started doing something that you loved, and then you got stuck doing things that you didn't, but people thought you were good at. I see it all the time when I work with insurance agents. They start a business, they go out and they start acquiring new clients, and then they get stuck filing things and answering correspondence they no longer need to do. They can delegate it. So maybe one of the answers is you delegate. You train people. You put others and empower others into a position that they can help you so you can spend more time doing what it is you love. Now, if you hate your job, If you don't like your career at all, if you have no passion for it, then that's another issue. You may need to go find something new. Number 2, there's Captain Jack, live broadcast. How do you like that? Number 2, find new people to hang out with. Like I said, I'm not telling you to get rid of your friends or your colleagues or your clients. What I am telling you to is to constantly seek out new people. Constantly look for people who are interesting, who do things differently than you, who are diverse, people that you can learn from. I'm constantly trying to meet interesting people just to learn what it is that they do, what it is that they like, and find out if I can learn from them as well. Maybe they can learn from me. Look at how long you've been hanging out with the same group. Are there new people that you can find, either professionally or personally, that can add value to you, that can add diverse thinking, that can give you new ideas, that can help you grow? Seek them out. This has to be intentional. Finally, along those same lines, be a lifelong learner. Seek out help from coaches, mentors, accountability partners. I have my own accountability partner that I talk with 3 or 4 times a week, even if it's just on text, who holds me accountable. Do you have mastermind groups? Do you have groups that you can be part of that are with colleagues, new people? Find out who can help you, and then be vulnerable enough to ask for help. It's about being vulnerable, and a lot of times people don't like doing that. They don't like feeling like they're not in complete control, or that others don't think that they're in complete control. The reality is those that are vulnerable are actually the most self-confident and ultimately the most successful and offer the most significant value. Bottom line, commit to being bold. Stay positive, have perspective, understand that life is too short and too unpredictable to become predictable. Find what you love, enjoy what you do every day, give great value, and improve the condition of others. And get out of that shadow so that you can maximize your talent. I'm going to repeat those solutions. Find out if what you're doing now is really what you love, what you have a passion for, and what you're good at, and how you can help others. If you are doing things that you don't like, change that. Make sure that you're delegating training and doing what it is that you're really good at and have a passion for. Number 2, always be seeking to find new people to meet, to hang out with, to engage as friends or clients or customers. And then number 3, be a lifelong learner. If you do all of that, just like Captain Jack, you're going to be rushing through that open gate, and that you'll be unleashed as well. So there it is, about 10 minutes. That's what I thought. Final thoughts, you can find out more about me on my website, www.danweedin.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, all of that stuff you can find there. And I encourage you to check out my new book. Just came out a few months ago, called Unleashed Leadership. If you're in a position of influence over others, if you're a business owner, executive, pick up Unleashed Leadership. And keep track of me on Periscope. I'm going to be doing this on and off, and I hope that you'll continue to be coming back and watching again and again. I want to thank you for joining us today. Go out there and be unleashed.